So I said, well, now that you mention it, so what's the story? So Doreen said that she was raised in Alaska in a family that had a number of challenges. And she said that for a girl like her, the highest thing she could have aspired to was to be a barmaid in Fairbanks. Then people would have said, you go, girl. She said, I wasn't smart enough to get an academic scholarship. I had no athletic skills, so I couldn't get an athletic scholarship. I didn't have enough money to go to college, and I was too poor to qualify for aid to go to college, so college was out. She said, and I had a mentor who paid my way through college and paid all the expenses. And when I graduated, said, you have a good mind, you should get an advanced degree, and paid for my master's degree. And I gather supplemented her all the way through her doctorate. She said, now I'm president of Yavapai College. We have whatever it is, 20-some-odd thousand students, 4 campuses. She said, and everything I have in life I owe to having had this mentor. I said, well, that's a very sweet story, but I don't see the connection between that and the Zach E. Gordon Institute for Independent Filmmaking. She said his name was Zach Gordon. Now, if you try to calculate the odds on that journey, you'll go insane. That's tougher to calculate than the Fibonacci equation. So the school ran for 12 years here in Sedona, and it was a tale of brilliance, daring, boldness, creativity. I would always tell the students at the opening day, this is going to be the best year of your life, and universally they said at the end of that year it was the best year of their life, and we turned out wonderful young filmmakers. Doreen got into whatever she got into, and she was no longer at the college, and as it says in the Bible, there arose a Pharaoh who knew not Joseph. And there was a new president of Yavapai College. And I could smell that the minute there were budget cuts, we would be axed. I could just see that the person, well, I won't use the language that I'm thinking, but I am thinking it. Was some kind of idiot, if you know what I mean. So I saw that our time here was limited at best. The minute budget cuts happened, we were going to be axed. This was a person who didn't get what we were doing, didn't value what we were doing, and wanted out. And so I began looking around. Plus, Yavapai never had the money to actually fulfill Zaki's vision. Zaki's vision was for a 4-year school. Eventually, they granted an MFA, and it was a much grander vision. So I started looking around for a 4-year university. Public universities, I tried, didn't work. Every time I would get close to a deal with a public university, the teachers' unions would invariably squash it. So I knew it had to be a private university. Private university meant religious university. Notre Dame has a film school, so the Catholics were out. BYU has a film school. Mormons are out. Brandeis University, despite the fact that it's known as a quote-unquote Jewish university, is actually very anti-Israeli. I, to this day, am a soldier and a reserve officer in the Israel Defense Forces, and that ticked me off, and so I said I'm not going to have anything to do with them. So that means it's going to be a Christian university. Got no problem. Remember, I was raised in the land of Pentecostal churches and bars. When I was a kid, I used to play backup in gospel bands at tent shows. So I speak Goyish really well, man. That's like a first language to me. And there are a lot of good stories because I was with some first-rate hustlers who were preachers back then. One in particular, the Reverend Mr. Stile, but that's another story. Anyway, so I get along very well with the notion of a Christian university. And I asked a Christian filmmaker friend of mine, did he know of a Christian university that did not have a film school, that might want a film school, and that had deep pockets? And he said, yeah, I think maybe Liberty University. And I said, great, how do I pitch him? He said, I can get a phone meeting with the head of the drama department. So I pitch her. She says, this sounds spectacular. Can you be in Lynchburg in 2 weeks? I said, this sounds oddly familiar. I go to Lynchburg, Virginia. Liberty University was founded by Jerry Falwell Sr. Today it's run by Jerry Falwell Jr., who is not a pastor. He is a businessman and an attorney. And Jerry Sr. was a man of tremendous vision, but he was a terrible businessman. Awful, just terrible. When he died, the university was on the verge of bankruptcy. Jerry Jr. is one of the most decisive leaders I've ever met in any endeavor in my life. He is an extraordinarily impressive man. They now have over $1 billion endowment fund. He took it from bankruptcy. They went into online learning in a very, very big way. They are now second only to University of Phoenix in online learning in the world. So they have deep pockets. I show up. Waiting for me is Jerry Falwell Jr., who's the president. The chancellor was there. The CFO of the university was there. The dean of the School of Communications was there. I pitched for 3 hours. I don't breathe for 3 hours. At the end of 3 hours, I had hoped, the best I could hope for, was they would say, do you have a business plan? I didn't. They'd say, well, you need to write one up. I would. They would say, well, we're nearing the end of our fiscal year, plus you have to submit the business plan and the academic plan. Do you have that written up? I don't. Well, you need to do that. And so you need to submit it. This sounds very interesting. Let's meet again in 6 months when the academic committee has had a chance to review the thing and the business plan has been reviewed, and then we can talk like normal business people about whether or not we're interested in pursuing it any further. I would have broken out the bottle of Cristal on that in a heartbeat. Instead, at the end of the meeting, this was in May 4 years ago, President Falwell said, I have just one question. I said, what's that? He said, can we open the school in September? I said, hell no. I forgot I was at a Christian university. I said, it'll take a year to buy the equipment and install it. This is a massive undertaking. This is going to be 100% digital, and it's going to be state-of-the-art, Jack. It's going to cost you money, or we're not going to get involved. And I can't finance this one. We're talking about big money. He said, come with me. Takes me into another boardroom, and there on the boardroom table, there is an architect's model of a film school. He said, 3 years ago, we decided that we needed a film school. He said, the money's been approved. Yours is better than ours. This is going to be called the Zachy Gordon Cinematic Arts Center. You tell us what equipment to buy, and we'll buy it. I said, Jerry, I'm a BS artist. I actually don't know how to do anything. I said, if you're serious, we need to get Steph Schulze, who is our director of the school in Sedona, out here. He actually knows how to do stuff, and we need to get our IT guy out here, who was a former student. Micah Johnson needs to come out here. He said, good, I want them both here tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning. We're going to hold a convocation and announce to 15,000 students that we're opening the school in September. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, Jerry, I live in a town of 12,000 people in northern Arizona. I cannot make travel arrangements at 5 o'clock in the afternoon in Virginia to get anybody here at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. You've got to go through Dulles, take a puddle jumper into Lynchburg. It's just not, it's not possible. He said, oh, sure it is. We'll just send our jet. So I called Steph and I said, Steph, pack your bags. There's a Learjet coming to pick you up. He said, yeah, right. I said, Steph, pack your bags. You're about to become Dean Schulze at twice the salary and in a 4-year university. Jet picks him up the next morning, 10 o'clock. We're in front of 15,000 students, and the opening of the Zachy Gordon Cinematic Arts Center was announced, and we opened the writing program that September. The following year, we opened the film school. We're now in our 3rd year. It is a $60 million facility. It has the finest equipment of any film school on the face of the earth, bar none. Better than SC, better than UCLA, better than NYU and Columbia University by far. They hired Steph, which means we needed to hire a new director here in Sedona. And I saw no reason that the two schools couldn't not only coexist, but actually help one another, because there would be students who we would have an overflow eventually at Liberty who couldn't get into the program at Liberty, who we could direct to Sedona. And we, for those students who wanted to continue into a 4-year program from Sedona, we could refer them to the Zaki program with which they are already familiar in Lynchburg. And there was a young woman who I pushed for her to get hired. She owed me her job. There were people who didn't want to hire her. And I said, no, she'll be good at this. And the first year it worked fairly well. We knew we were facing budget cuts, and they said, we've got to increase enrollment. I hit every high school in Arizona. And the next year, for the first year in the history of the school, we had maximum enrollment, which was 40 students. We couldn't have any more than that. And I came in for my meeting with the director of the program, who owed me her job. And she said, here are the films that you'll be teaching this year. I said, I know what films I'm teaching this year. You don't have to tell me. She said, no, these are the films you'll be teaching this year. I said, excuse me, what? And I saw that she was reshaping the curriculum. I said, I'm going to, full stop. You can't do this. You are an employee of Yavapai College with whom I have a contract, and they are contractually bound to get my written approval, which I have not given.